Number 10. Ghost Train. I realize that this is a legendary fan favorite of the Thomas series, but I can tell you now that this was one of the many Thomas episodes before Season 5 that terrified me as a kid. And you can understand why. Every time I would watch my Percy's Ghostly Trick tape and the Thomas anthem was over, I knew what was coming next. Just the beginning alone had me already scared between the music and the spooky ghost train scene. And things only got more intense with the infamous ending, apart from Thomas's face that also scared the ever-living hell out of me. It was these elements that had me ducking behind the couch every single time. Hell, there were even times where I couldn't even sleep at night. But nowadays, whenever this episode comes on, I just get so giddy and excited whenever it comes up. I now love that kind of suspenseful stuff. The music is really entertaining to listen to, and the sets are... wow. Everything about this episode is just amazing. It has definitely earned its keep as a fan favorite. Number 9. Heroes. To me, I feel like this episode really brought out the best in Bill and Ben. From the time they were first introduced to where they are now, we've always known them as these cheeky little devils who love to cause mischief for the other engines. But what about in emergencies? Would we ever see them actually be serious for once? Well, yes. The episode towards the end really does put their bravery to the test, and they passed with flying colors. That's some pretty interesting character development for the twins. I wish we would have gotten more episodes like that in CGI, but I'm not complaining too much. Overall, I think this is a very well-written Bill and Ben story that will always be a favorite of mine to watch. Number 8. All at Sea. Where do I even begin with this amazing episode? It's so relaxing and so relatable as hell. Of course, in Duck's perspective. I'm sure there are lots of us out there that have big dreams that we'd like to accomplish in life, and that's why I think this episode really should relate to a lot of us. I really do like the dynamic between Percy and Duck in this one. I mean, Duck's just kinda laid back, having his dreams and thought, and then there's Percy, who'd really just rather be an engine more than anything, which I can kinda see where he's coming from. Really wish we could get more episodes like that with these two. The music, once again, is very soothing to listen to, and I just love some of these shots with Duck. I will never, ever forget about this episode for as long as I live. And before I say my next episode, tell me, am I not the only one who gets happy goosebumps whenever I hear this line?
Duck still wonders about the lands beyond the horizon, but I think he knows that sometimes the best travels are those we can only dream about. Don't you?
Number 7. Brake Van. Remember how I said Love Me Tender was Donald and Douglas at their finest? Well, this episode is no exception, and once again, it does not disappoint, especially with these two. Both of these devilishly clever Scotties are savage in this one. From Donald putting the brake van in his place, and Douglas, well, killing him practically. They obviously take no shit from anybody, and I have massive amounts of respect for them. Not for nothing, but I really love the way George Carlin does their voices.
You're a muckle nuisance. It's to leave you behind I be wanting. Anyone would think that Donald had had his accident on purpose. I heard tell about an engine and some tar wagons.
By far, they are definitely some of my favorite voices that George has ever done. This is another really well-written episode with everyone's two favorite Scottish twins. Number 6. Henry's Forest. Okay, I understand that this has become a very controversial episode, all because of one specific person and his opinions. Look, I'm not gonna dig too deep into that because I don't care about said person's opinions. Anyway, what I really appreciate about this episode is how everybody, after the storm, pitches in to save the forest, even though it looks like Henry has given up hope. And that generally is heartbreaking to see Henry like that. It makes you stop and think, what if we were in Henry's place at one point in our lives? And what if we lost something special to us? And the music, ugh, very disheartening, as again, you really feel for Henry, and all we want is to see him happy again. This is truly a very beautiful episode that really needs a lot more praise. Number 5, Special Attraction. Another very uniquely styled story, I must say, seeing as how it not only focuses on one engine, but 2 engines, that being Toby and Percy. Now, I could see why that would be confusing to some because, well, through the first part of the episode, we just jump right into Toby's story with him being the special attraction in the parade, only for him to be denied, and then all of a sudden we just jump right over into Percy's story with Bulstrode. I'll admit it's a tad confusing, but it's still really enjoyable to sit through nonetheless. I think the best thing, though, about this episode is how George Carlin definitely does Bulstrode's voice. I'm in stitches every time I hear him do certain lines.
Come on, come on. Why aren't you cars where you should be?
Oh, I'm sinking.
As I said before, while this may be a tad confusing to some fans, and it probably could have been made into possible 2 stories, I still think it's pretty good for what it is, and it's by far my very favorite of Season 4. Number 4, The Flying Kipper. How could this episode not be on anyone's top 20 list? It's amazing! I will admit, Henry has kind of bounced around from being a favorite to not being a favorite as the series progressed. But after watching this legendary classic time and time again, he definitely deserves a spot. I mean, I'm amazed by the beautiful shots and wonderful music every single time I watch this episode. Especially the unforgettable Flying Kipper theme, which warms my heart every time. Even the crash, which is definitely the best we've seen on screen, still manages to give me goosebumps. This is definitely one of Henry's finest episodes that I will never stop watching. It is definitely a remarkable masterpiece of Season 1. Number 3, An Engine of Many Colors. What? A Big Real Big Adventures episode in your top 20? Yes. Well, let me explain. Personally, I think it's a very good continuation from where we kind of left off with the fastest red engine on Sodor and a shed for Edward. The way Michael White wrote the episode just gave me such a big throwback to the classic series, even if that was his given intention. But it just played out fabulously. I love seeing James in all the different colors, being that silver was my favorite one, and I am glad that he did learn his lesson in the end. At least, I hope so. This is definitely one of the more tolerable episodes that we've received from Series 22, and I will gladly pick it over all the other crap ones we've gotten. And even though I have to feel a tiny bit bad for my boy, tell me something else. Are we ever gonna see a crash as crazy as this ever again? Number 2, Thomas's Train. Okay. Yes, I know the story is questionable, I get it. I understand that Thomas should have felt the weight of the coaches behind him at first, but I'm going to argue that I feel like Thomas was just excited, as per usual with his character, and he just wasn't being patient. That's something that we can expect from someone like Thomas. I don't know what it is, but somehow to me, watching him screw up, in a way, is kind of funny. And I hate to throw this in there, but I'm going to anyway, cause I don't care. I will admit that my heart does break for Thomas every time I do hear this line.
Poor Thomas was so sad he nearly cried.
Watching this back when I was a kid, being the basic bitch that I was, again, all I really cared for with this episode was just seeing my favorite blue tank engine on screen. I understand if there's a lot of you out there who don't particularly care for or even like this episode. That's fine, but in my case, it's still a real joy to watch to this very day. Now before I get to my number 1 favorite episode, let me just show you some honorable mentions that, well, were very, very close to making the list. And now, my number 1 favorite Thomas episode is... Thomas, Percy, and the Post Train. This was another very common episode to run into back in the day, and I'm glad it appeared on the many Thomas tapes I owned because this episode is gorgeous. I love it to death. Any Thomas episode that happens at night is amazing to watch, but it doesn't come nearly as close to this. I just love how beautifully lit the sets are with the night and the sunrise scenes. And of course, Mike and Junior obviously outdid themselves with the post-train theme, and it has become my very favorite piece of Thomas music in the entire show. I could go on and on about how fantastic this episode is. It's just a very enjoyable and very beautiful story that has stuck by me for so long, and it will always be my number 1 favorite for the entirety of the Thomas and Friends series.